ASEAN Dailies. First and the foremost news from Southeast Asia.
Hello, welcome back to One Asean. You're with Gowri here. And we're back at our ASEAN Daily, and we are going to talk about the economic side of Southeast Asia. And the first news that we have is about ASEAN Economic Community to offer trade boost. So after the ASEAN Economic Community, the AEC, was officially incepted this week, a lot of analysts have been evaluating what is the potential trade value of the 10 member state grouping. And this was signed in Kuala Lumpur. The agreement aims to turn ASEAN into a single market and production base, removing tariffs and instilling uniform standards to make it easier for all the 10 countries to come together to exchange goods and services. However, after 12 years of waiting to reach this stage, the consensus is that the benefits will take up to a decade to come into effect. It will definitely start a lot of economic movement in the region, a lot of trade flows, human flows, capital flows, and that's exactly what ASEAN needs at this point of time, especially when the world seems to be moving apart from each other, and the world seems to be closing the doors and putting up barriers to each other, according to Nicholas Kwan, who is the Director of Research at the Hong Kong Trade and Development Council. But the AEC can expect to see a slew of investment as all these uniform standards and regulatory harmony make it easier to pump money into the bloc. A lot of European and Japanese investors have shown interest and also are currently the top spenders in ASEAN and will continue to keep a strong interest. However, the simultaneous progression of the TPP, which is a 12-nation free trade agreement that includes most of ASEAN members as its signatories, that is likely to also usher in more investments from Latin America to the AEC. And Vietnam actually appears to be the biggest winner with the establishment of the AEC and TPP when it comes to effect, and this is according to Eugene Lim from Baker and McKenzie. And Vietnam is expected to benefit the most, mostly because Vietnam has been very active in negotiating and signing all these free trade agreements with other trading partners, including most recently with South Korea, the EU, Russia, Kazakhstan, Belarus, and even the European Free Trade Association, which includes Switzerland, Norway, Iceland, and Liechtenstein. And all this give major competitive advantages to Vietnamese exports, as well as inflow of trade and investments in Vietnam. And Malaysia's Prime Minister Najib Razak has said that we now have to ensure that we create a truly single market and production base with freer movement of goods and services. For that, with common standards for greater connectivity and the removal of barriers that make our borders a hindrance to growth and investment will be one that is primed to expand exponentially. Meanwhile, there's a forecast that the AEC will lead to huge GDP boost for Singapore, which is likely to become the financial hub for the bloc. No surprise about that, right? And with its few remaining production facilities set to be relocated to low-cost centers, I think this is great because it's all about being ASEAN and recognizing what that's something special that binds us. Even all the ASEAN citizens themselves are trying to forge an ASEAN identity, and with that comes a lot of responsibilities. We have to start raising our bar, raising our standards. We have to start pushing ourselves, driving the whole ASEAN effort forward, as well as how we're going to meet the aspirations of the younger generations, the youth who make up ASEAN. And of course, it's already end of November, heading into December, and by the end of December 2015, the AEC is supposed to have fully implemented with all the tariffs load, and we'll have to wait another month and see how far exactly will we go with the AEC and what happens next year in January. And apart from that, another news about organic farming promotion efforts targeting One Asean markets. And from the Philippines, the Central Luzon has been asked to patronize organic food, both to sustain organic farming, which the government is trying to promote in the country, and the objective of this is to make farmers more competitive once the economic integration takes place and opens up food trade in member countries of Southeast Asian nations. I think when it comes to making farmers more competitive or even competitiveness as a whole, it's a very important factor when it comes to the AEC, because you're not just competing with your local vendors anymore. It's not just about who's next door or who's in the next state. It's not even about who's in the country. You're competing with 10 different countries here with so many vendors, farmers, businessmen, whatever it is. And in order for you to be the one on top, I think we really need to start equipping ourselves with the right skills, and also how exactly we can face the competition and still come out on top. And during the second regional Organic Agriculture Congress and Trade Fair, the Department of Agriculture Central Luzon also announced that it had allocated 30 million pesos this year to improve organic farms, and the events were designed to introduce organic products to a larger consumer market. So Philippines here, in order to make their farming more competitive, they are looking at introducing more organic products, which is a great move because everyone is going organic these days. Organic farming is definitely in, even in Malaysia, it's really catching up. People are starting to switch to more organic fruits, organic vegetables. We're all becoming more health conscious as well with all the climate change happening around us. And of course, like I mentioned earlier, we are preparing for the potential 600 million consumers in Southeast Asia as part of the integration. And we definitely want our farmers to be competitive, according to Andrew Villacorta, the DA Central Luzon Director. And she also said that the opening of the markets in the Philippines to its ASEAN neighbors should not be considered a threat to local farmers, according to Caroline Castro, the chief of DA's Market Development Vision. And she said sectors were quite worried about cheap imported goods flooding into the local market when the tariffs are lifted. But this tariff liberalization in the country is being enforced gradually to protect local food producers. So don't worry, it's not like a whole slew of businesses will just come in and attack. It will be done gradually. It will be filtered, and they will be let in one by one. But in order to compete with imported foods, of course, the local organic food producers must also seek ways to become more efficient, to reduce prices, because organic products are, of course, still very, very expensive to obtain. And for them to be competitive, we should at least bring the prices closer to those of the conventional products, so there will be no more monopoly in this case. We have small water impounding facilities, she added, and which are also used during flash floods, as well as drought, and fruit-resistant varieties, which are now accessible to farmers. So let's get for a quick break, and when we come back, we will talk about this the arts and culture side of Southeast Asia.
ASEAN Dailies. First and foremost news from Southeast Asia.
Hello and welcome back to One Asean. You're with Gowri here on your ASEAN Daily, and I would like to move on to the arts and culture part of Southeast Asia. And first up, we have an ancient city staging film festival without even a cinema. So this is happening in Laos at the moment, and all the cinema aficionados in Asia are buzzing about the Luang Prabang Film Festival to be held December 5 to 9 in this ancient town on the Mekong River. And one of Asia's most ambitious cinematic events, it may be the world's only film festival to be held in a location without a single movie theater. And regardless, the festival's American director, Gabrielle Cooperman, has developed a very impressive event, now in its 6th year, eschewing local overseas commercial that guarantee crowds. Instead, he's focusing more on films made in Southeast Asia, and often by local filmmakers themselves, including those from Laos. And he said, "We really believe in our mission, which is twofold. We promote the making of films in Laos, which is a great location, and then we want to expose Laos to more films so Laotians can see how things are done in their neighboring countries." And of course, Laos is an exquisitely beautiful town with ancient temples, palaces, and government said that he visited first during a holiday in 2008 and could hardly have picked a more unlikely location for his film festival. And although listed by UNESCO as a World Heritage Site, Luang Prabang has become a popular tourist destination largely because of what it lacks, which is modern buildings and shoppings. It is a very sleepy backwater and a steep roof Buddhist temples. The streets rarely have traffic, but rush hour features a lot of processions from murmuring monks and women weaving traditional textiles and silk. And another feature that turns out to be attractive is the lack of cinemas. And at one time, Luang Prabang had 2 movie houses, but the disappearance speaks of the impact of the Indochina War. Some people call the US-led campaign in Laos, Vietnam and Cambodia in the 1970s, with the communists taking over in the region and grinding the poverty that ensued. And all saying in Myanmar says one marvels at the busy planting of rice. In Vietnam, in Cambodia, one watches it growing, and Laos is so languid one can hear it. Even the country's official name, Lao People's Democratic Republic, standing as a joke, goes, "Please don't rush." And of course, government also saw a very rich culture and a proud heritage in Luang Prabang, which is this was a former northern capital that had miraculously escaped the devastation of the Vietnam War. And born and raised in Washington D.C., government also has a master's degree from media studies from New York's New School. And moving on, finally for today, guess which country makes list of 10 most generous nations? Well, it is Malaysia, and I'm not just talking about ASEAN, we're talking about top 10 in the world. Malaysia is apparently known for their charitable efforts. The country has been listed as one of the most generous nations in the world. The index is by Britain-based Charity Aid Foundation and looks at 3 measures of giving: donating money, volunteering time, and helping a stranger. And Malaysia scored a very surprising 62% when it comes to helping strangers, 58% in donating money, and 37% in volunteering services. And Malaysia, among the most improved countries in 2014, has maintained these increases in giving to remain in the top 20 for this year. The US comes in second, while New Zealand completes the podium. Other countries in the top 10 are Canada, Australia, United Kingdom, Netherlands, Sri Lanka, and Ireland. And this year's edition of the World Giving Index presents data from across the globe over a 5-year period from 2010 to 2014. And this index includes data from about 145 countries that was collected throughout 2014. And the mission is to motivate and to give even more effectively and help transform lives and communities around the world. And that will be all for our ASEAN Daily today. Thank you so much for tuning in. As always, don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, also on YouTube. Just look for Durian ASEAN. And if you're always on the go, we also have an app. Just look for Durian ASEAN in your app store and you will be tuned into us. So I hope you guys have a great day. I have an interview coming up at 9 o'clock later with a young man from the Philippines who will be talking about Sipat Lawin Ensemble, which is his theater company in Manila. So stay tuned for that one.